Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. I'm your host, Clayton Fletcher, and I am in lavish, tranquil New York City, happy to be bringing you yet another episode of the world's longest-running poker strategy podcast. Some of you may have noticed that we are down minus one sponsor, and I wanted to take this opportunity to let all of you know that if you are a small business owner and you'd like to advertise goods and services on this podcast platform, you should get in touch with me right away, either on Twitter at Clayton Comic, where my DMs are open, or you can email cf@claytonfletcher.com. Well, we got some really good feedback from last week's episode and a pretty lively discussion, a strategy discussion on the TPE Discord, which you can join for free by clicking the link in the description of this podcast episode. Today, I'm going to look at a couple of those hands again and also look at another hand that I played in an online mystery bounty tournament. You guys know that I love the mystery bounty tournaments. I'm hoping to play in some mystery bounty action next month at the Wynn, where I'm also hoping to play in the $5 million free roll, but so far I do not have a seat. My question for you is, do you have a seat? Are you playing in the $5 million free roll in Vegas next month? And what do we think about this promotion generally? Obviously, the competition with WSOP now being owned by GG, and everything they're doing in the Bahamas around WSOP Paradise, and the heavily publicized overlay in last year's WPT Championship. So this year, they did something a little bit different. There's no guarantee on that championship, but they are having the $5 million free roll the day before. I'm trying like crazy to get in. I'm tweeting, I'm retweeting, I'm doing everything. I'm doing all the things, but so far I haven't won a drawing and I haven't gotten in to the free roll. I will probably end up at the Wynn either way, but as of now, your boy is still holding out hope of playing. That tournament has a guaranteed first place prize of $1 million. Just think about that for a minute. Somebody is going to play in a free roll and win $1 million smackaroonies. I hope it's me. So far, I don't have a seat at the table. We'll see. Maybe that can happen before next week's episode drops. Speaking of next week, I'll be hitting the road. I've got some out-of-town dates coming up to let you guys know about. November 22nd and 23rd, I will be in Richland, Washington at Joker's Comedy Club. Love to see some of you guys out there at Joker's. It's my first time performing in this place. It looks like a really fun place to go. The Atomic Bowl. I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but it looks like a great time. AtomicBowl.com, and then click on Comedy Club and you will see my smiling face. The following weekend, November 29th and 30th, I will be at Chadwick's in Medford, Oregon. That's in the Rogue Regency Inn and Suites, Chadwick Sports Bar and Pub and Comedy Club, apparently. So come on out and enjoy some laughs with me. All right, let's take another look at these hands that we discussed last week. This was an $8 online tournament with a $15,000 guarantee. And this first hand sparked some conversation in our Discord channel. So I want to look at it again, and this time I'm going to use my favorite tool, GTO Wizard. This is the best tool on the market right now to help you improve your poker game. You can search any spot at all and study the ideal strategy that a perfect robot opponent would play in any spot. You can also input your own hands, upload them from whatever website you happen to be playing on, and the wizard will analyze your play and find leaks in your game and teach you how to plug them. There's also the heads up play mode feature, brand new feature where you can actually play against other GTO Wizard users and see how your skills measure up against the community. So we're going to use GTO Wizard to test the lines that I employed in this $8.80 15K guarantee. Just to refresh your memory, the blinds were 200, 400, 50 ante per player. The average stack was 20,000. I had 42,000, which put me in the top 10. There's an open from third position, and I defended with a call from the big blind with the ace of spades, 4 of diamonds. So let's look first at the pre-flop play. The open comes from third position and the player has about 30 big blinds. The solver actually shoves here with ace 4 off about 35% of the time and calls the rest. So I don't know. I mean, that seems like a huge overbet to me, but I guess just having that ace and not being suited, I think contribute to the frequency of shoving. Like our hand plays better hot and cold as an all-in rather than taking a flop and then trying to navigate from out of position. And of course, having that ace blocker is huge because it's just so unlikely that our opponent has pocket aces, which is really the only hand that we're absolutely loath to see him turn over in the event that we're called. Obviously, when you shove 30 big blinds here, it's a huge overbet, and you do just want to take it down. You're betting 30 bigs to win about 5 or 6. So yeah, about 5 or 6 times the pot. There, obviously, you don't really want to get called, but sometimes you'll get called by a hand like pocket queens, and you'll flop that beautiful ace, and then you'll have a big stack all of a sudden, which is fun. But I just didn't really feel like that was the right play for me at this point in the tournament. Possibly because I was doing so well already. Why should I risk like half my stack just trying to win these 5 big blinds? But the solver does it, and it's worth noting about a third of the time the solver just goes all in with ace 4 offsuit in this situation. So I found that compelling, but we just called, and that's what you're supposed to do about 65% of the time anyway. And now with 2,400 in the middle, the flop came 9 of clubs, tray of diamonds, deuce of diamonds, and we had the ace 4, including the 4 of diamonds. I checked. Villain bet 1,500, and I just folded because Villain didn't have enough chips, in my estimation, for me to continue for such a large flop bet sizing. And this is what really sparked some controversy. A user named Optimistic Gunner in our TPE Discord in the podcast channel says, I'm not liking your line on the ace 4 offsuit hand on 9 tray deuce board. Villain misses that board with most of his range, so the strategy is to check a big part of his range or bet big. It will be a mix across most of his hands, as he will usually be over cards with good equity on most turn cards when called. All right, so let's look at this paragraph first. Optimistic Gunner is saying that Villain's strategy should be to check a lot on this flop, and when he does bet, Villain should be betting big. Well, in this case, Villain did bet big, right around 60% of the pot. But yeah, I'm not sure about the logic of, well, because Villain is mostly going to have overcards on the flop, that we should be going for a check raise on the flop. So continuing with the Discord message, quote, I think your strategy then is to have a big check raise with both your best hands and best combo draws and just calling with the best of your medium strength hands and folding a ton of the junk. Okay, I think this is a good strategy when we have like 100 big blinds effective. But you have to remember, when we're only starting with 30 big blinds, and now this player is really committing a lot of chips to the pot here on the flop, I think that this is going to be overweight towards made hands. So I'm not really sure I'm following this logic here. I'm interested to see what the solver has to say. Continuing Optimistic Gunner's message, the combo draw you have connects with a lot of turn cards that are bad for your opponent. Any ace, 6, 5, 4, tray, deuce, or diamond, you get to barrel. Even an 8 or 7 can probably be considered a brick to barrel. So I'm assuming here he's talking about how to follow up on the big check raise. So if we try to put some numbers on it, Villain's betting 1,500, so a reasonable check raise size from my seat would be maybe 4,500, 5,000, something like that. The player only starts with 13,000 in his stack, and I think that's what's missing here. We can't really find all of this wiggle room to be barreling and doing all kinds of things. You know, when you only start with an M of 13, as Villain does, you need to play your hands more decisively. It's less about trying to find three streets of creativity and all that sort of thing, which is why I folded in the first place. I didn't want one of those cards to come that would help me. Also, I really disagree that we can barrel a tray or a deuce. Those are not good cards for us. Like if we check raise the flop and now the board pairs on the turn, whatever our opponent called that check raise with is not going to mind seeing the board pair. I mean, he's got something, right? He bet, we raise, and he called. So he's either got a 9 or maybe like pocket 8s or an overpair. It's usually not going to be two overcards, a hand like King, Jack, or something like that, especially because I don't think those hands prefer a large sizing on this flop in the first place. So I feel like we have a pretty serious disagreement here, Optimistic Gunner and I. So let me just finish his Discord message. It says, it's not about value when called, but rather the equity you can gain plus the equity Villain is folding with each bet. Puts a ton of pressure on any overcards or sketchy ace tray or ace deuce they might have. Even ace 9 is going to get upset on a turn barrel. Yeah, I just don't think that players are trying to find folds when they have 30 big blinds and they flop top pair. I don't agree. Maybe he's right, and maybe I'm not barreling enough with enough hands. I think that I barrel too much, if anything. But yeah, what do you guys think? Like, who's right here? More importantly, what does GTO Wizard have to say? So let's look at the solver output. We already did pre-flop, so on the flop it's 9 tray deuce. I checked, Villain bet 1,500 into 2,400, and I just threw my hand away. So what does GTO Wizard do in this exact spot with 30 big blinds effective? Solver plays a mix, guys, including 33% fold with all combos of ace 4. But the problem for me is the combos that are folding are the ones that don't have a diamond. We know that the combinatorics are important. I remember last week saying I didn't want to get into a situation where I pick up some kind of 4 high flush draw on the turn. So that was one reason why I folded. And I remember saying that I would never fold if I had the ace of diamonds. Well, the solver doesn't fold very much with the 4 of diamonds either. So of the 33% of the time that we are folding our ace 4 offsuit combos, only 2% of them have that 4 of diamonds, and 0% of them, by the way, have the ace of diamonds. So at least I got that part right. So the solver wants to play a mix, but I mixed it wrong. So what the solver wants to do with my exact hand is fold 2% of the time, call 25% of the time, and raise the rest, either 7 or 9 big blinds, a mix, 40-60 mix there. So yeah, that is kind of what Optimistic Gunner had in mind. He wants to go for a big check raise on the flop. Well, not that big, but a decent check raise considering stack sizes here. And then probably start looking for barrels on the turn. So I found that interesting. It was a fun hand to go over and to engage with our members and Discord users alike. So if you guys are interested in trying out GTO Wizard for yourself, I have a great deal for you. We've got an affiliate link. All you have to do is click the link in the description of this podcast. You can get 24 hours, unlimited access to all of GTO Wizard's features, so you can try it out. And then when you're ready to buy, you can save 10% on your first purchase just because you click the link when you registered. And that link is gtowizard.com/p/TPE. All right, so let's review the other hand from last week. Same tournament, the $8 tournament. 300, 600 with a 75 ante. The average stack was 22K. We had 38K in the stack, so doing great. And the action folded to the cutoff, and we called from the big blind with the king of spades, 10 of spades. So king 10 suited in the big blind. Villain has the effective stack of 40 big blinds. So I defend. Solver loves it. This is a 100% pure call. I think at one point last week I said you could occasionally put this into your 3-betting range if you wanted to, but that I don't really do that. The solver never does it with this particular hand at this stack depth. So we call, and with 3,400 in the middle, the flop comes jack of spades, jack of clubs, deuce of diamonds, and so we've got 3 to a royal on the paired board. I checked, and I remember being very surprised that villain checked behind. Wizard loves my check, but Wizard hates villain's decision to check it back. Guys, it is so hard to hit jack, jack, deuce, rainbow that when you are in position, I don't care what you have, just put out a bet, one big blind or a little bit more if you want, and that's fine. You know, you don't have to go crazy trying to win the pot, but at least start off with a C bet. Sometimes you will encounter zero resistance and pick up a nice pot. Over time, all those little pots you collect on all those paired boards that nobody defended properly against you on, that's how you get paid in poker. Over your course of your career, those little pots really do add up, believe me. So, yeah, it's a 100% bet, a range bet, as we say. So already, villain is in no man's land. Anyway, it did go check, check, and the turn came the 6 of spades, which gave us a king high flush draw. So I put in a large bet here, 2,500 into 3,400, and villain called. So let's check my line here. The solver does like betting. GTO Wizard bets 32% of the time, although to be fair, almost never my large sizing. It's usually just a blind and a half, between a blind and a half and 2 blinds. So it's a very rare line that I'm taking here, although it does happen about 2.7% of the time. So I bet, and then he called. So at that point, there was 85.50 in the pot, and the river came the king of clubs, giving me top pair on the paired board. And I went for a check here. Villain check behind, and then I beat 6-4 of hearts for a pair of sixes. He had turned a pair of sixes, and then I caught up on the river. So what do we think about my check here on the river? The solver actually overbet shoves about twice the pot, 65% of the time. So not really worrying about a jack or a better king or anything. Just, we made a pair of kings, let's just stick it in, and then trying to get value for that pair of kings with a 10 kicker. So that comes as a bit of a surprise to me. I don't feel I'm that polarized when I make a pair of kings on the end, but obviously the solver disagrees, and this ends up being pretty close to the top of our range. So yeah, this river is a 65% shove and a 31% check, with the remaining 4% just a small, normal-sized bet, like a third of the pot. So yeah, that one kind of floored me when I saw that output, because I really don't know what kind of value we're supposed to get. I mean, what hand are we trying to get value from that a pair of kings with a 10 kicker can beat on the paired board? I don't know, but that's what the solver output says to do, and that's what I will try to do the next time I find myself in that situation. So that is fun with GTO Wizard. I expect to be playing a little bit this weekend on GTO Wizard. I will demonstrate some of the features, and you guys can play along with me if you want to on twitch.tv/ClaytonComic. Just give me a follow. A follow is free, and you can find out when I go live this weekend on twitch.tv/ClaytonComic. All right, let's do one more new hand for today's strategy segment. This is a $33 mystery bounty online tournament. You guys know how I feel about mystery bounties. I am a sucker for mystery bounties, and this one has multiple starting flights per day, and your chips accumulate. So, it's just going to be a huge prize pool with giant mystery bounty prizes to win. And I was playing in this thing hoping to make it to day 2. The blinds were 125 and 250 with a 30 ante. The average stack was 9,000, and we had 5,300, which was just a tick over the starting stack. So we've got about 20 big blinds, and the action folds to the button, who min raised off of a stack of 11,000. So he's got us well covered. We'll be playing the average stack with our 20 big blinds. So he makes it 500. The small blind folds. I'm in the big blind, hero with the Jack of Hearts, 10 of clubs. So Jack 10 offsuit from the big blind. I feel like this is a call. We've got 20 bigs, nothing wrong with seeing a flop. I guess you could shove, but it just feels a little wild to me. Although I now know that ace 4 offsuit is a fist pump, get it in. Anyway, I call with Jack 10 off, and with 1365 in the middle, we have 4,800 in the stack, and the flop comes ace of clubs, king of clubs, king of diamonds. Ace, king, king. Hero with the Jack 10 offsuit. We've got a gut shot. We've got some backdoor club possibilities. I went for check here. Villain put in 500 into the 1365 pot, and I decided to just call. I think this is pretty murky. I don't know if I hit a queen, am I going to be happy? Sometimes obviously Villain will have ace king or some other full house or even quads, right? So he's got a huge nuts advantage over us. And also, similar to last week's hand, when you're this short, everything needs to go your way. Like when I get there, I need to double up, basically. And how short can I be that I will double up? I can really only double up against an ace or a king that's not a full house or better. So I think it's a pretty tall order. This might be another spot where we can just go ahead and throw it away. The problem for me is that 10 of clubs. I just feel like there are a lot of cards that are not queens that can come on the turn and give me a flush draw to play around with, possibly even a royal flush draw in some cases. Well, one case, I guess, the Jack of clubs. But yeah, I do wonder, being this short stacked, if we're supposed to check fold when we don't have a club in this situation, or is that when you make it a check shove? Either way, I decided to call the 500 and see the turn, which was a glorious queen of hearts. And now with 2,300 in the middle, we've got 4,300 in the stack, and I checked my straight, and Villain checked behind. Now the river came the 7 of spades, which really changed nothing. I still have a straight, and I thought I should try to get some value for it. I'm worried about checking again and possibly not getting any more value. So what sizing would you go for here? There is 2,365 to be exact in the middle. We've got 4,300 in the stack. I mean, you could certainly bet like 700, 800. Make sure you get called by a hand like an ace or whatever. And then if you get shoved on, I guess you could pretty much fold, because it's rare that players will bluff shove on rivers, especially when you could have a king. I don't know, guys. I feel like this is a spot where we just want to be optimistic. I put it all in. I overbet the pot. I put in 4,300 into the 2,365 pot, and I was pretty sure I wanted to get called. Of course, sometimes I'm going to feel like an idiot when he's got 4 kings, but he called and I beat ace, queen offsuit. So we can say this play really worked out for your boy, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good play, guys. Like, do you think that it's a bit ambitious of me to shove with so many chips just because he checks back on the turn? The only way I can get it all in is if I shove here on the river. I guess I could go for a check raise on the end, but do you love it? Like, if you check, do you really want him to bet so that you can shove? At that point, he might be a little bit more strong. Like, would he have bet big on the river had I checked and he had ace queen? I really don't know. This felt like an interesting spot. It was a hand where I doubled up, more than doubled up, but it still made me wonder if I played well or not. What do you guys think? Let us know. You can tweet me at Clayton Comic. You can also find me on the TPE Discord. There's a link in the description. And let me know what you think. Let me also know what you think about next month. Are you going to WSOP Paradise? Are you going to play in the World Poker Tour Championship? Have you won a seat into the WPT free roll, the Gold Pass free roll, $5 million with $1 million guaranteed for first place? Who's going to be there? I hope to see some of you in Las Vegas. And for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas, please. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Lock in intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. I wanna roll with her, a hard pair we will be. While little gambling is fun when you're with me. Russian roulette is not the same without a gun. And baby, when it's love, it's not rough, it isn't fun.